Hi everyone, and welcome to my competition workshop. In this workshop I'm going to give you all the hints, tips and info you need to prepare for a mixed media box competition piece. So let's get started. So to begin with, I'm going to go through all the different competitions that there are out there. Now, if you've never ever entered a competition before, it can be a really daunting experience of where to start. So there are competitions internationally and within the UK and also now online. So it's really important for you to understand each individual competition and how it is relevant to you, and if it is right for you as a competitor to enter that competition. Now, I'm in the UK, so I will only be talking about competitions that go on within the UK, but obviously internationally there's hundreds of competitions that you can enter. So in the UK, competition season starts around March and goes right the way through to October. There are competitions that happen in London, Coventry, Birmingham, Manchester, Ireland, all over the country. So no matter where you are in the country, there is normally one that is fairly local to you. Last year saw the launch of the first competition in Coventry called the Nail Games. Now, 9 times out of 10, a nail competition is held within a beauty expo. So you have the beauty show going on, and you also have a section within the arena, wherever it may be, that is set aside for nail competitions. And there can also be other competitions like makeup and lash competitions as well. So like I've just said, last year the Nail Games was launched, and that is held in Coventry. Now, if you're first starting out in the competition world, I would say in the UK that is the best competition to start off with. The reason I say this is because the atmosphere is really relaxed. Even though it is a competition, it doesn't feel like a competition. It's really friendly, and it really has that community feel to it that, if it's your first competition, really helps to subside any nerves and any anxiety that you may have going into the competition. It's quite an intimate competition. Like I say, last year was the first time that it was launched, but it is growing. So it's a great one to get started with. You also have the Pro Beauty competition and the UK Nails competition. These are held in all different places. So the first one of the year is held in London in the Excel building. Again, it's part of a main exhibition for beauty and nails, and there is an area set aside for the nail competition. This one has a real competition vibe about it. It is quite strict in its rules, but again, it's a really good one to dip your toe in the water and just feel your way for whether you enjoy doing competitions or not. The big one that is held throughout the world, but in our country it's in London, and that is Nailympia. So this is held at Olympia Beauty. So again, there's a beauty show expo going on at the same time, and upstairs of the arena in Olympia Beauty you have Nailympia. Now this is a hardcore international worldwide competition. You have competitors coming from all over the world, from I think there were 42 different countries last year, and there's something like 14 different categories. So the standard of this competition is really, really high, but that doesn't have to put you off. It doesn't have to deter you, because with entering a mixed media box, nobody needs to know. It's not like it's a live competition. You're not on the competition floor, so you can still do that in your own time and enter it. And if you don't come, I don't know, wherever you've pitched yourself at coming within 40 different entries, nobody needs to know about it. So that, for me, there is a hierarchy with comping. So you have the smaller, more intimate competitions that by all means are growing, but they do not have that really strict regimented competition feel to them. Then you have the Pro Beauty and the UK Nail Masters competitions, and then you have Nailolympia, which is worldwide. So the first thing that you need to do is do your research. Find out which competitions are going on in your area, and also that have the right feel for you. Some people go straight into Nailolympia and they absolutely love it, and other people enter it once, feel really daunted by the experience and never enter a competition again. So my advice to you would be is to enter a smaller competition and then work your way up through the hierarchy of competitions so that you get the best out of your competition experience. The judging process. So for competitions, the judging process is really quite strict, and for good reason. It needs to be as fair and as viable as it possibly can. So I am going to be talking about a mixed media box set. So a mixed media box set is what we call a hand-in competition. So you have competitions that, or categories I should say, within a competition that are either live, so they're done on the day and they're timed and they're done on the competition floor, or you have your hand-ins. So that would be a mixed media box, a photographic piece, or a flat box. So a mixed media box is a box of 10 tips. They can be any size, any length, but there has to be 10 of them, and they can be arranged in the box and decorated with whatever mediums you want. So I will be going through the criteria for a mixed media box a little bit later on in this video. So what happens with a mixed media is you do it in your own time. So you can do it the week before, or some people take up to 6 months to complete their box. It's entirely up to you. It's done in your own time, pre-competition, and there's no time restraints on it whatsoever. So it's quite a nice relaxed piece to be able to do, as long as you hit the deadline of entering your box on time. So the judging process for a mixed media box is that normally, I mean, you do have to check the rules, but normally the hand-in time is anywhere between 10:30 and 11 AM on the day of the competition. Now you can send your box in prior to whoever it is that's coordinating the competition, and that is normally 2 weeks prior to the start date of the competition. What I would say is sending a box in, if you have got 3D work on there and it is quite delicate, you are entrusting that hard work and all your creativity that you've spent God knows how long preparing for into the hands of a delivery man. So personally, I don't tend to enter competitions that I can't attend in person and deliver that box in person, because I can't trust that it's going to get there in one piece. And obviously if your box is broken, or an element or a piece has fallen off in transit, then it is going to be judged in that way, not how it's meant to be. It's going to be judged how it's been presented to the judges. So when you get to the competition, you hand in your piece and you will get a sticker that has a number on it, and you actually get 2 stickers, because for a mixed media box set you have to hand in a step-by-step, so a booklet, which I will talk about later, and you also have to hand in your piece. So they give you a sticker and you stick it on the back of your box over your name so that it is judged blind. So as far as the judges are concerned, all that box is a number. They don't know who's done it or any relevance to a particular person whatsoever. It is just a number. You will be made obviously aware of that number, and then when the judging process comes, they will put your scores against your number. So the way it works is you hand it in by 11 AM and then it is judged throughout the day. Sometimes the judging can take all day and then you have to wait until the presentation at the end of the day, or sometimes if it's a 2-day competition, the results aren't released until the following day. So that does depend on which competition you are entering. So the judges will then take your boxes one by one, either off of the judging table or out of the cabinet. Sometimes they're displayed so everyone can see your mixed media, along obviously with other competitors' work. They will take it, they will look at it, and then they will put it either back on the table or back in the cabinet. 9 times out of 10, there are 3 judges for a competition piece. So you have a score sheet, and each judge has 5 elements of criteria that they are looking at. So one judge, for example, may be looking at the continuation of the design across the nails, and the second and third judge will not be judging you on that. So the rule of thumb is that each judge awards you 50 points, so there's 150 points up for grabs. So once the judges have looked at your piece and have decided on your scores, they then pass it to the next judge and they judge within their criteria. So it's a really good way of developing your skills in your own time, but you don't have that harsh reality of being judged within a time frame and on the competition live floor. I will be going through a score sheet a little bit later on so that you know what criteria the judges are looking for. So when you're entering a mixed media box piece, preparation is key. Know your time frames. You don't want to push yourself too hard and you don't want to leave it too late so that you don't get a complete box by the time you have to either send it or hand it in on the competition deadline. So time frames is really, really important. I would say to complete a mixed media box piece comfortably, you need to leave yourself 3 months from the planning process to the completion process, but you can do it, and which I have personally done it in a week. It is entirely up to you, your schedule, the way, however busy your life may be. Some people just do that box, that's all they have to concentrate on, so they have all the time in the world. Other people may have a family, 3 children, a job, a full book of clients, so you need to take all of that into consideration when you're preparing to do a competition. So what I like to do is give myself a timeline. So I work my way back. So if you're entering more than 1 competition within the year, put all your competitions down on a timeline and then work your way back of how long you're allowing yourself for each box to take, and then make sure that you've hit your own personal deadline and try and stay a little bit ahead of yourself. Obviously, if you're just entering 1 competition, then give yourself as much time as you possibly can give yourself. And if it's your first competition, start as early as possible. Don't put all of that work in and then get to, I don't know, a week before the competition and then think, I haven't got time to finish this, I'm not going to enter. Because you've put in all of that work, so you need to make sure that you prepare yourself time-wise to be able to complete your mixed media box for either the hand-in on the day date or the send-in date. So one way of making sure that you're really prepared for the competition is to get your hands on a score sheet. So I will make this available for you guys to have a really good look at. I have got a old score sheet that was a competition that I entered for a mixed media box nail art piece. So I will pop it up on screen now. As you can see down the left hand side, you've got your numbers. So you've got MM2, MM13, MM8. These are all numbers that have been allocated to competitors in order to be able to judge the competition blind. Along the top, you have got all three judges who have been named. So you've got Linda Hill, Elaine Moore and Katie Barnes that were judging this particular competition. With judging, you don't know who is going to be judging the competition until the day, and to be honest, it really doesn't make much difference because they're working to the score sheet and specific requirements. So as long as you've hit those specific requirements within the score sheet, then it really doesn't matter who's judging it because they all judge at the same standard. So you will also notice that with the categories, you've got category A, F and K, which all three judges judge that one same criteria, and that is the wow factor of the piece. So this is literally, if they look at your piece of work and they say wow to whatever degree that wow factor is what they will judge it on. 9 times out of 10, this is a pretty high scoring category because all of the pieces within their own right have that wow factor. So that is 30 points that you can gain pretty quickly from having a piece that makes the judge say wow. So I'm going to go through each category and I'm going to explain each category within the judging process. So category B is the continuation of design flow from nail to nail. So this means that the design has to flow from one nail to another. So for example, if you've got a background that is, I don't know, buildings or like a garden scene, it means that it is flowing across the nails seamlessly as though it is painted or whatever it may be that you've done. It is flowing from one nail to another. Now, if that continuation doesn't flow, you will start to lose points. So the more of the continuation of the design that you can do across all 10 nails, the higher you will score within this category. Category C is the showcase nails are clearly displayed in a plain box, 10 points or 0. So this means that basically they can see the nails. So in this particular mixed media box nail art piece, you were not allowed to decorate the box or frame in any way, shape or form. Some competitions you can, so you must make sure that you read the rules and the guidelines for that particular competition really, really well. Because if in this category you had decorated the box or the frame outside of the nails, so you could have the nails in the center of the frame, if you had put anything on the outside of that box or on the background, you will lose points. So there was no option in this category to award 0.6, 7, 8. It was 10 or 0. So that is a main error that a lot of people make, is if the box had anything on the frame whatsoever, you would get 0 points. The step-by-step, does it have a step-by-step? So with a mixed media box piece, because it is done pre-competition, 9 times out of 10, the competition will ask for a step-by-step. So in that step-by-step, all you have to do is take photos at each stage of each process that is included within the finished box, and literally write out a step-by-step. So for example, with your background, you would say, I used acrylic paints to create an ombre effect with my background, and you would take pictures of the nails naked, so nothing on them at all, and then as you put the paint on, and then as you ombre it through for the background. That is what is needed in a step-by-step. And again, in this category, it's either 10 points or 0 points. A lot of people tend to get 0 points in this category because their step-by-step isn't present. So, like I've explained previous, you will get a sticker for your step-by-step and a sticker for your box. They go hand in hand. So in the cabinet or on the table, your box is put on top of your step-by-step. If your step-by-step isn't there, you will get 0 points for this category. So in 2 categories, so are the nails clearly displayed in a plain box, and does it have a step-by-step, you could easily lose 20 points for making real rookie simple errors that can be completely avoided. The next category, E, is creativity. Is the design relevant to the theme? So for the mixed media box piece, in most competitions you will get given a theme to work to. You have to make sure that your piece is relevant so they can look at that box. For example, if it was pop art, look at it and know exactly what the theme was that was set. So you need, even though you can think outside of a theme and go really individual, you really need to make sure that you stick well to that theme. It can be completely different. So for example, there was a murder mystery theme. Some people did Cluedo, some people did Scooby-Doo, some people did Sherlock Holmes, but it was all within the theme. So for that category, again, there can be up to 10 points awarded. And then moving on to Judge 2, again, we've got, does the showcase have the wow factor? The originality of the nail design, and is the design new and innovative? So you really need to try and be original with your design. So even if you are following the Cluedo route or the Sherlock Holmes route, if the theme was murder mystery, you need to make it that it's something that they've never seen before, whether it be in your technique or the story that you are telling within that mixed media box piece. You need to try and be as original as possible. The clarity of the artwork. Now this is really important. So you need to make sure that any line, any dot, any ombre that you have done is as clear and concise as possible, because every single element within that box is going to be judged. So you can't do, if for example you were doing a tree, you can't do one leaf of the tree absolutely beautifully and really pay attention to the veins on that leaf and the shaping of that leaf, and then for the other 100 leaves lose interest and not do it as crisp and as clean as it needs to be. The clarity of the artwork needs to be as clear and concise as possible across all 10 nails. So the next criteria in this particular competition and on this score sheet is criteria I, which is 3 mediums used. So this particular competition had a set rule that you had to use a minimum of 3 different mediums within your mixed media box set. So that means that you could have used acrylic paints, gel polish, acrylic as a sculpting medium, gel as a sculpting medium, foiling, crystals, all of those fall into the category of mediums. So for this particular competition, you had to use 3 different types of mediums. So this section, you are either awarded 10 or 0. There's no in between. So it's, if you only use 2, you would be automatically given 0 points. So you always must make sure with the competition guidelines and the rules that you meet the brief of however many mediums it is that you have to use within that competition. Normally, rule of thumb is 3 different mediums, but sometimes it can be 4. So it's really important to make sure that you're clear on the rules and the guidelines of the individual competition that you're entering. So the next category is there too much detail or too little for the design? So this is particular to the design that you've used. So for example, if you were doing a forest scene, is there enough detail in the wood on the trees? Or is there enough detail in the leaves? Or is there too much detail? Have you completely overpowered the whole design and the overall look of the design with too much intricate work? It's a very fine balance, but for example, again, if you were doing a leaf, you need to make sure you put the veins on that leaf and the shading. If you're doing a tree, you need to make sure you have the lines of the bark and things like that. So it's just those little details, but you don't need to put unnecessary details in there that will overcomplicate the design. So again, this is awarded up to 10 points, and it's up to 10, so you can get anywhere between 0 and 10 points. So moving on to the third judge and their categories that they were judging on. Again, you've got, does the showcase have the wow factor, which I've already explained, and then the difficulty of the design and the complexity of the skills used. So in a mixed media box set or any competition piece, you need to show off what you can do to the best of your ability. And if there's a complex design skill set that you can use, then do it, because this area of the scoring, if you can do, I don't know, a particular technique really, really well, then do it, include it. And the more complex that technique is, the higher you will rank in scoring. So that can come down to like acrylic sculpting, crystal placement, hand painting, any of those areas. If it's quite a complex area within the nail world and you've done it really well, this is the area that you will score really highly on. The next category is M, which is, are the curvature of the tips visible, display and arrangement structure for decoration. So this is a little bit of a grey area. So the rule of thumb is that the tips can't be made into a flat surface. So you'll have a curved tip, a competition style tip. You cannot then put acrylic on top of that or gel on top of that and make it into a flat surface. You have to keep that C curve in that tip and also the natural curve of the tip. So they are quite curved, a competition tip. You will find that the square tips are more curved than the stiletto tips. And if you do go on to do my competition mixed media box art workshop, I will go into that more, but a lot of people tend to make the mistake of making their tips into a flat surface. Don't do that. Make sure that they're curved and that you can see the apex and the curvature and the C curve of that tip. Now, that being said, there's nothing stopping you from putting something on top of that tip that travels across the tip. So for example, if you were to do the wing of a fairy or a butterfly in 3D, that can travel across numerous tips as long as you can still at some point on the nail see the curvature and that there is a tip under there. What a lot of people tend to do is do so much work on the tip, and this applies for a mixed media. If it was a fantasy, it would be different criteria. So for a mixed media, people put so much 3D elements and lots of different things on top of the tip that you can't actually see the tip any longer. So it might as well just be on any surface. So you must make sure that you can still see that it's a set of nails. So the next category is colour and good use of colour, and is it appropriate? So you need to bear in mind with the theme of the box what colours are appropriate and what colours are not. So for example, a pop art mixed media box can be really bright and colourful, whereas a murder mystery you would probably have less colour and probably go darker. So you need to make sure that you keep within the theme in your colour choices and whether it's appropriate. And you also need to create a balance, so you don't want too much dark in one area, too much brightness in another area, unless you're doing a contrasting piece that's half and half. You need to try and make sure that your colour distribution across the whole piece of work is even and it's appropriate for that theme. And then the last criteria that is judged on is the overall finish to a high standard. So you need to make sure that every single element that you do is to the same standard. It's no good doing an absolutely beautiful, perfect background, getting bored halfway through your 3D work and then not doing it to the same standard. You need to keep it to a really high standard all the way through and be consistent as well. And that can come down to with regard to the finish on the nails. So they need to be smooth in your top coating, so no bubbles in your top coating, no bits of fluff, nothing that shouldn't be there. And you need to, some judges get a magnifying glass out and a light and a torch, and that is how closely they are looking at your work. So the way to make sure that you get high points in this category is that every single element that you do before you move on to the next element within your design, make sure it's to a really high standard and look at it really closely and then move on to the next element, and make sure that you are consistent within your standard throughout the whole piece of work. So that is a score sheet. Obviously, some categories may change depending on the competition that you're entering, but that is a standard mixed media box score sheet. So it's a really good way throughout your entire design process and your creating process and putting everything together to make sure that you hit as many of those criteria to as high a standard as you possibly can. This will be available in the links below, so you guys can refer back to this score sheet. Obviously, every competition, every category for a competition has different rules. So this isn't a rule guideline, it's a score sheet to help to give you some sort of benchmark on what the judges are expecting from you. What you will also notice on the score sheet is the total points on the right hand side. It's really close. So when you start getting to from about 6th position, so 6th through to 1st, there's only 1 point in it. So those points are really, really important, and do not make rookie errors. For example, by decorating the outside of the box and losing 10 points. It doesn't sound like a lot of points to lose out of 150, but when you get to 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th, when there's only 1 point in it, it's a lot of points to lose out on. So you really need to make sure that you're hitting the criteria as best you can and referring back to the score sheet and the rules throughout the entire process of creating your piece. So getting an idea for a competition can be the most difficult part. You're given the theme for the competition. For Nailympia, there is no theme, so you have free reign. But for most competitions, you are given a theme, and that is released in the competition the year before. So at the presentation ceremony for the awards, at the end of that, you will be given the theme for the following year's competition. So it's easy to run away with a theme and get lots of different ideas. So getting an idea, the best way to control that thought process is to go onto Pinterest and set up a board. And then you can type in the theme into Pinterest and it will give you lots of different images and variations of what comes up with that theme. So I would advise you to put everything that you like into one place, into a board. And what that will do is it will create a pattern for you. So you will start to get an idea without even realizing that you're getting an idea, because of the theme that is running through the different pins that you have put onto your board. Once you start creating a pattern, you can then hone in on what it is that you are subconsciously concentrating on. So for example, if it was pop art, you would have a set of pictures building up that you are attracted to naturally, and that would be different to somebody else. Everybody is attracted to something differently, so then you can hone in on that particular theme that you are running throughout that board, and then you can develop your idea from that. My advice to you would be is to get 2 or 3 ideas on the go, because not our first idea doesn't always come out as we plan it to, and you may get stuck halfway through the development process of that idea. So if you have a backup idea, it's really good to be able to fall back on, and sometimes you might find that the 2 ideas tend to amalgamate into each other, so you might grab one part of one idea and incorporate into it with another idea. That's absolutely fine to do, but the best way to deal with getting an idea is to get it out of your head and onto some form of either paper, or I personally use Pinterest because it's a great way of seeing lots of different ideas, and it may pop up that's something that you haven't even thought of. So my advice to you would be is to get it out of your head into a board onto Pinterest, go crazy, pin lots and lots of different things, and then as soon as you start to see a pattern, get your idea, stick with it and go with it. So once you've set upon an idea for your design piece, it's time to start developing that idea. So the best way to do that is to try and put it into practice, either down on paper or in your head, of how you can make certain elements of that idea come to life. So how you can make certain elements 3D, what parts of it you would hand paint, how it's going to tell a story, how you want your judges and also other people that are looking at your piece of work to feel when they're looking at your work, and then that will help to create a design flow. So what colors you're going to use, what different mediums you can incorporate into that. So all of those things need to be considered when you're developing your idea. So for example, if you were doing a murder mystery piece, okay, you would want it quite dark. You would want the person that's viewing your piece to feel, oh, I wonder what's going to happen. You want to make them wonder what the story is and who got murdered and who done it, and all different things like that. So that is how I develop my idea, is how I want to make the person that's looking at my box feel, okay? Because by creating feelings within people, we create emotion, and by creating that emotion, you are pulling that person into your design, and that is how as well you are going to get the wow factor with your judges, by how you make them feel. In the same way that if you wanted to make people feel as though they want to be part of your design piece, you need to draw them in and tell the story. So all of that can be done on Pinterest, and also with mixed media, it's becoming really popular now to use other elements. So people have started adding in sound, they've started adding in smells, they've started adding in lights. So all of this can be amalgamated into one piece. So for example, if you had, I don't know, a train, and you could have some dry ice in the train, and then it would smoke as though it's going along the track with the steam coming out of the train. People are starting to incorporate these elements into their design pieces. So it's not necessarily just about the painting and the artwork and the 3D work. It's also now becoming more of a sensory experience. So for example, if you had a house and it was dark, you could put little lights in the house so that the windows would shine up. If you had a fire, you could have the fire lit up. You could make it smell like embers, or there was a box that came first last year that was, the theme was festive and it smelled like Christmas. They used incense sticks to make their box smell. So all of these things you need to include in your development process so that you get as much feeling from the person that is looking at it, and you get as many points as possible. It's starting to become bigger to incorporate things like sound, light, textures, and everything else within a mixed media. So once you've got your idea, developing the idea and considering all of those things, the more things you can consider and put into that idea, the better. As much as it is lovely to see just a box that is beautifully hand painted, if they haven't created emotion, told a story, or incorporated as many things as they possibly can, they're not going to rank as highly as someone who has. What I would say is, once you've got your idea, stick with it and go with it, because if you've prepared your time frame, I normally take about a week to develop an idea, to get an idea, develop it, and then put it into practice, get it down onto paper and make a rough drawing and sketch of what it is I'm going to do. So you don't want to waste that time. So once you've got an idea, stick with it and go with it, and trust yourself. So don't worry about what other people are doing. You can get quite bogged down in, I wonder what she's doing, her work is amazing, his work is incredible. Don't worry about what anyone else is doing. Just do you, because you know you and you know what you're good at. So hone in on that and go with your idea. Try and think a little bit more original, so try and do something that nobody's ever seen before. But I've found that the boxes that place highly, and the boxes that I've personally done that have placed highly, they are the ones where I've gone back to basics, I've stripped it back, and I've done what I do really, really well. There is no point in trying to do, I don't know, a real life portrait if you know you can't do that well. There is no point spending all that time and effort into creating something that you know that you can't do really well, and that you know you're going to be disappointed with at the end of the process. But if you're really good at flowers and you're really good at 3D work, then hone in on that and use your skills that you have to the best of your ability. So that would be my main advice to you. Once you've developed your idea, hone in on what you are good at and do it really, really well. So I get a lot of people say to me, especially my clients as well, what is the point in competing? What do you get from it? So not only do you get a really good buzz for the competition side of it, it's a whole nother world, a whole nother nail world that completely changes your way of thinking. So you may not be doing a massive 3D piece on your client's nails in a salon environment. So that's highly unlikely that you're going to be doing that. But by doing a competition piece, what I've personally found is, once I did my first competition, I got my feedback from my judges, and I then came back and was doing my clients, and I was looking at their nails completely differently, because I was then applying the feedback that I had got from the judges to my clients' nails. So I would be doing, I don't know, some hand painting, for example, nail art on my clients' nails, and I would think to myself, is that good enough to enter a competition? Now, it gives you a completely different train of thought, because I would paint my clients' nails before entering a competition and be really pleased and think, oh, that's really good. But as soon as you change your train of thought and you think, would I enter that into a competition? If the answer's no, the next time you do it, you're going to push to make yourself feel that that is competition worthy. Even if it's just down to a normal gel file and polish that you're doing on your clients, you tend to find that you're going to get up to that cuticle that little bit closer. You're going to make sure that that finish is absolutely seamless. So for me, that is the main reason that I compete and enter competitions, because it pushes me outside of my comfort zone. I learn new skills and techniques every time I do a box, and it also transfers into salon life, into my clients, where they don't even know I'm thinking it, but it makes you strive to be better at what it is, or whatever element it is that you're doing at the time. So competing, whether you place or not, it really doesn't matter, because you are always striving to be better. So if there's 40 people that have entered that competition and you come, I don't know, 22nd, if you enter another competition and you come 17th, you have proven to yourself that you've taken on board the feedback from the last competition, you've honed your skills, and you've got better. It's not about placing first, second, or third. Obviously, it's really lovely to do that, but the main thing for me is that when you enter another competition, as long as you've done better than what you did last time, then you are improving. It's all about improvement and self-development. So please don't be disheartened if you enter a competition and you come way down further the pecking order than what you imagined yourself to do. Because once you've got over the fact that you may not have placed where you expected to, you will look back at your score sheet, you will look back at the feedback that you get from your judges, and you will hone in on what it is that you need to improve on. And if you do that every time you enter a competition piece and you improve on those areas, that's it, you've done it, you've improved yourself. And that is the most important part for me. So competitions, they have their place in everyday salon life. It will make you a better nail artist and a better nail technician. It will help with your personal development, and also it opens your eyes to a whole nother world. The competing world is a really positive and supporting one. A lot of people tend to think that it can be quite dog eat dog and catty, but I have found a whole nother nail family in competing, and we're there to support each other and develop our skills. So as long as you've done that, then you have achieved your goal. I really hope that you guys have enjoyed this workshop video. I really hope that I've given you a good insight into what goes on prior to competing, and the judging process and the score sheet and everything else, and that you don't feel as in the dark as what you normally would if you were entering your first competition without any information. If you've enjoyed this video, please make sure you hit the like button. If you want to keep up to date with any future videos, make sure you click the subscribe button and the notification bell, and I'll see you all soon.